The 2025 F1 season is done. The confetti has fallen, the champagne is flat, but you know it isn't.
The arguments? They are just getting started.
They are absolutely raging. We're here to tear through the raw source material, the data, because there is one explosive question we have to answer. Was the champion truly the best driver of the year?
The answer is absolutely not. And that's the huge contradiction we are here to unpack.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Lando Norris is the 35th F1 world champion.
He did it. He snapped Max Verstappen's incredible streak of 4 straight titles. That is a fact. It's in the history books.
But the history books don't tell the full story. Our mission here in the deep dive is to cut right past the trophy lift. We're dissecting everything to find out who the real best driver of 2025 was.
And we are starting with the controversy. Norris won the title by a hair. I mean, just 2 points.
2.
But our analysis, when you look at all the data, it tells us something else. It says he was not the best driver this year. He's the champion, yes, but he was not the benchmark. Let's get into it.
All right, let's unpack the champion himself, Lando Norris. Most points over 24 Grand Prix. Most podiums. He got the job done.
And you have to give him credit for how he evolved.
Yeah.
The data shows he found, the best version of himself in those final 5 races.
Under the most intense pressure imaginable.
Exactly. With Verstappen breathing down his neck. That final run was the stuff of legends. It proved he belongs right at the top.
But, and it's a big but, the fact that it was only 2 points suggests a flaw, doesn't it? Our data argues he lacked that solidity, that ruthless consistency for most of the year.
Look at the errors. The near misses that almost cost him everything.
You're talking about Canada.
The Canada DNF, of course. Trying to overtake his own teammate. That was a moment of weakness, a failure to manage the risk, and it handed Verstappen a huge chunk of points.
But hold on, isn't winning the whole thing the ultimate measure of consistency? He overcame that slump. He proved he could finish the fight. You're arguing against the final result.
I'm arguing against the context of the result. You can't ignore the final race either. He was so under pressure, he had to overtake Kimi Antonelli just for the math to work out.
So McLaren had the car at the end, but maybe not the composure.
Norris himself showed moments where the pressure got to him mid-season. He just wasn't as consistent across all 24 races as his rival.
And he really challenges that whole F1 champion cliche, right?
Absolutely.
The sources call him a good guy, timid, sensitive. He doesn't fit that hard, aggressive mold we're so used to.
And that sensitivity is a question mark for long-term dominance. It just is.
Okay, so that brings us to the uncrowned king. The man who our sources say was objectively the best.
Max Verstappen. And it wasn't even close. The verdict is definitive.
Yeah.
He was the best driver of 2025 by far.
And you have to remember, he did not have a dominant car this year.
Not at all. The machinery was inconsistent for the first time in years, yet he still got the most victories and the most poles.
The fight back was just unbelievable. We crunched the numbers on his recovery since the Dutch Grand Prix.
It was staggering. He clawed back over 100 points in the second half of the season. That's a level of raw performance that, frankly, nobody else could match.
And this is where we need to talk about that phrase from the sources, statistical barbarity.
Yes. This means he did something almost impossible. Max scored 94% of Red Bull's constructors' points.
Pause on that number for a second. 94%.
It means Red Bull was basically a one-car team that finished 3rd in the championship. That is driver dominance on a scale we haven't seen in a very, very long time.
It's terrifying. It proves that even with a dodgy chassis and no help from the other side of the garage, he can single-handedly beat entire 2-car teams.
And trying to find a genuinely bad race for Max this year, it's almost impossible.
He had the one DNF in Austria, but he was taken up by Antonelli. Not his fault.
Right. And maybe you point to the chaos in Barcelona with George Russell, where he got penalized twice. That cost him a podium. But otherwise, a masterclass. He was the best, period. The trophy doesn't change that.
He has every reason to be proud of that season. It cemented his status.
Absolutely.
And hold on, because this kind of analysis, this heat we're bringing, it is exactly why you need to be here with us in the DRS zone.
This segment is part of our news coverage of recent F1 events. We are deep in the adrenaline zone.
If you're watching this on YouTube, welcome to DRS zone. You need this insight, this speed. So don't forget to subscribe for more F1 content. We are just getting started on the disasters of 2025.
Okay, let's pivot from the top and hit rock bottom. Disaster. It's the only word for the Ferrari fiasco.
4th in the constructors. 4th. This is the 16th time in their history this has happened. It's a legacy of chaos.
And here's the detail that should make you furious if you're a Tifosi.
Go on.
They finished behind a Red Bull team that scored 94% of its points with one driver.
Ferrari, with 2 cars, all that money, couldn't beat the Max Verstappen one-man show. That is a total indictment of their failure.
And Leclerc said it himself, worst season of his life. He was suffering because he had to carry a team that was just constantly making mistakes. It's an institutional failure.
From institutional failure to a driver who maybe hit his personal rock bottom, Lewis Hamilton. The data says this was the worst season of his entire career.
The facts are brutal. He closed the season without a single Grand Prix podium. And just to be clear, a sprint victory does not count in that official tally.
But the real shockwave was his qualifying, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. 3 consecutive Q1 exits in the final races.
3 in a row.
You have to understand how bad that is. It means you're out in the first 18 minutes. It has never happened to a front-running Ferrari driver before, ever.
That's not just a bad day, that's a psychological break, a total loss of confidence.
And it raises the massive, terrifying question for 2026. Is this game over for Lewis?
Because if this absence of hunger continues, you have to wonder.
The sources speculate Ferrari might not renew him. And frankly, who else would sign him if he's performing like that? The motivation looks like it's gone.
So while Ferrari was imploding, one veteran was performing just pure magic.
Fernando Alonso. Aston Martin finished a sad gray 7th in the Constructors. A nothing result.
But Alonso,
Yeah.
he was the magician of the grid. His brilliance completely masked what a disaster that team was.
The data is clear. Without Alonso's points, Aston Martin would have finished 9th. 9th. Behind Williams.
The stats are just insane for the car he had. 10 races in the points, 13 times in Q3.
But here's the number that just screams dominance.
I know where you're going with this.
The 24-0 qualifying beatdown he handed his teammate.
24-0, it's a thrashing. It highlights that Alonso is driving at a level that is just beyond.
And that brings us to the teammate, Lance Stroll. He is the weakness. The sources are explicit. Aston Martin is hiring brilliant people, spending a fortune.
But the driver lineup is holding them back. And the problem is complicated, obviously, because he's the boss's son. But a decision needs to be made.
It does. Now let's turn from the collapses to the quiet triumph of the year. Williams.
Yes. They defied all expectations. They said it was a transition year, no development after Bahrain testing, and they finished 5th.
5th. They are the first of the rest. A monumental achievement for that team.
And it's all anchored by Carlos Sainz. He overcame so much frustration to become their leader. Regularly scoring points, podiums.
Well, the sources say 2.5 podiums, which is a bit confusing.
Right, let's clarify that.
It refers to 2 full Grand Prix podiums plus a sprint race victory. The sprint win doesn't officially count as a GP podium, but it just underscores his brilliant consistency.
And he totally dominated Alex Albon. Williams now has a solid foundation. They have to keep him.
Meanwhile, Mercedes finished P2, but they were never really genuine rivals, were they?
Not at all. George Russell got 2 wins, beat his teammate in qualifying, but the big story for Mercedes is the future. It's the lightning rod for 2026.
It is. Here is the scenario that Toto Wolff is dreaming of. If Max Verstappen is unhappy with Red Bull's new powertrain, with the staff issues, he won't stay.
And that fuels Toto's dream, doesn't it? The sources are all talking about it. A potential pairing of Max Verstappen and Kimi Antonelli at Mercedes.
That's not just a driver change. That is a seismic event that reshuffles the entire F1 world order for a decade.
You have to watch the driver market next year. It could be absolutely historic.
And as we look forward, we also have to say some goodbyes.
A lot of goodbyes. Tsunoda moves to a reserve role at Red Bull. And mechanically, we're losing some big things.
Huge things. Farewell to DRS. Overtaking is going to be fundamentally different.
We lose the MGU-H, which changes the engines completely. Goodbye to the wide tires. And sadly, goodbye to the Renault engine.
Which powered the last place Alpine. A total collapse. 10th place. They scored 22 points, and all of them came from pure gasoline.
The other 2 drivers, Mick Duhan and Franco Colapinto, scored 0. A big 0.
And we also say goodbye to the Sauber name. They finished 9th, got a podium with Hülkenberg, and showed promise with the rookie Bortoleto. They're making way for the Audi project.
So this 2025 season, it was a fantasy of close racing. A real fight to the end.
It really was. Even if the man lifting the trophy, Lando Norris, wasn't the driver who showed the highest level of raw, unmatched performance all year.
The era of guaranteed Verstappen dominance is over.
But Max's incredible drive, his statistical barbarity, proves his hunger is still there. He showed everyone what he can do, even when the car is letting him down.
So here's the final thought for you to chew on this winter. If Max Verstappen does not get the car he deserves in 2026, forcing him onto the open market,
Is that the moment the entire F1 world order just collapses completely?
what happens when a driver of his caliber is a free agent, ready to walk into Mercedes and trigger a chain reaction across the whole grid? The thought is terrifying, and it's the future we have to get ready for.
That is our deep dives for the 2025 finale. Do not miss any of our breaking analysis.
You can find us, DRS Zone, on all the platforms, TikTok, Instagram, and of course right here on YouTube. We will see you next time.